In this video, we are going to look at arrays in JavaScript. Now, these structures are familiar from Snap. They were just called lists in Snap. Well, here they're called arrays, and actually in some languages they're called array lists, but it doesn't matter. An array is in fact just a list of items. So here I am creating an array called names. Of course, this is a variable. I can name it anything I want, and I'm creating a new array, and these are the items in my array. All right, we're going to look at some functions. They're actually called methods that you can run on arrays. There are lots of methods or functions that you can run on arrays, and I suggest just Googling them. Google JavaScript array methods. They're actually called methods, and there's tons, and you can look them up, but I'm going to go over some of the more common, some of the more useful ones. So this first method I want to talk about is called ToString. Now, look at the syntax here. It's very specific. I'm running the ToString method on my array called names, and notice it's case sensitive, lowercase t-o, capital S-T-R-I-N-G, with parentheses here. And if I run this method, this is going to print out my array, right? I'm outputting it to out1, and if I run it, yeah, there we go. So the ToString method will actually print out your array with commas in between them, and actually this will happen by default. If I run it like that, you'll see it does the same thing, but I suggest running the ToString method. If you just put names there, there will be situations where it'll act a little bit funny. All right, there's a whole lot more methods, so let's take a look at them. I've added quite a bit, so let's go over what's going on here. So I've created a variable called output, and I'm running my ToString method on names, and I'm setting output to my list of names. And you know, of course, ToString is just, again, it's a method that you're running that gives you your array with commas in between them. So now I'm running a bunch of other methods. I'm running the pop method, which removes an element from the end. So in this case, names.pop, it should remove Jim. And then I'm adding the array, right? I'm running the ToString method again with a line break here. I'm adding that to my output. And then I'm running the shift method, which removes an element from the beginning of the array. So that should remove Bob in this case. All right. And then I'm adding my list of items, my names, again to the output. And then I'm running the push method, which adds an element to the end of the array. So I'm adding Alex to the end. Notice sometimes these things, you still need these parentheses here, but there's nothing in the parentheses in pop and shift, and actually ToString for that matter, but sometimes you put things in the parentheses. I'm running the method and I'm passing it Alex, which is going to add it to the end. Again, I'm adding my list of names to my output, and then I'm unshifting, which adds an element to the beginning, and again, I'm adding that to my output. So when I run this whole thing, yeah, no big surprise, right? This is my original array, and then I've removed the last item, Jim is gone. I removed the first item in the next case, so Bob is gone, and then I've added two items. I added Alex to the end, as you recall. I added Lulu to the beginning. So yeah, this is my output after I have done all of these methods. And as I said, you can actually print out an array without ToString, but don't do it. You'll already see if I get rid of the ToString, gotten myself into trouble. Like, right, I thought I added names to the output, but it didn't work. So don't do that. You want the ToString there. Oops, ToString. I'm not a very good typer here, am I? ToString. Yeah. So there I go. Names dot ToString. Oh, good God, Haas. All right. There we go. Oh, and the other thing that I want to mention is new array. You actually don't have to create an array this way. And actually, more often than not, you will see arrays created just by using square brackets. As I've said before, JavaScript is a big language. There's lots of ways to do a lot of things. And more commonly, you'll see arrays created with square brackets like this. And if I run this, yeah, it works just fine. All right, let's look at a few more things about arrays. Let's look at one more array method in this video, and that is the splice method. And this is going to be very useful, but it's kind of a complicated one. So I put some comments here, and of course I'm going to include this code underneath the video, and I suggest you play around with splice a little bit. So splice takes really a bunch of parameters, a bunch of inputs. The first thing that you have to put into splice is a number. Now this number indicates a position where you're going to add elements to your array. So I'm going to add elements to my array starting at position 2. the second number indicates how many elements I'm going to remove at that position. Okay, and then the third thing is a list of elements that are going to be added. So let's go over this, and I think this output will make sense. If I run this thing, of course, I've set my output to the names.ToString. This is my names before I have done anything to it. So this is my original list here. That's what I'm printing out initially. And then the splice method says add starting at position 2. And as you probably have gathered by now, the first position is considered position 0, right? That's how it works in most programming languages. So Bob would be item 0, Sue is 1, Sam is 2. So at position 2, Sam there, I'm adding these items, and this 0 means I'm not removing anybody. So I'm adding at position 2, which is Sam, these 3 items. So what happens to Sam? Well, he gets pushed down the list. So you can see that here my first, here's item 0, here's item 1. I've added my 3 items, Sally, Thomas, Morgan, and then Sam, Pat, and Jim, they all got pushed to the right down the list. Now, I could, of course, change these parameters. I could make that a 1. Oh, I don't know. Let's make this a 3. All right, well, what will this do? So this will add, starting at position 3, these items right here, but it's going to remove 1. It's going to remove 1 of the items starting at this position again. I'll run it, but I suggest you play around with this method. So again, hopefully this makes sense. So now, starting at position 3, which of course 0, 1, 2, 3 is Pat, I'm removing the item, 1 item, Pat, and I'm adding these 3 items. So notice Pat got removed there, and Jim, of course, got pushed down the list. Splice is a very useful method, but I would suggest playing around with it a bit. All right, thanks so much for watching.